Don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel and click the bell icon to be notified. This video is based on historical research, archival materials, memoirs, and documented accounts. It presents an analytical comparison between official Soviet messaging and everyday life experienced by ordinary citizens. When people think about the Soviet Union, two images often appear. The first is powerful and triumphant, rockets launching into space, factories running at full capacity, parades marching in perfect formation. The second image is quieter. Long lines outside stores, small communal apartments, whispered conversations in kitchens late at night. Both images are real. The question is not whether the Soviet Union was strong. The question is, what did daily life actually look like behind the slogans? 1. The promise of the system. From its foundation in 1922, the Soviet Union presented itself as a new social model. Official propaganda emphasized equality, industrial strength, and collective progress. Posters depicted smiling workers. Films showed productive farms. Newspapers reported record-breaking output. The message was clear. The system works. The future is bright. And in some areas, measurable progress did occur. Rapid industrialization transformed a largely agrarian society into a major industrial power within decades. Education became widespread. Literacy rates increased dramatically. Access to basic healthcare expanded. But statistics tell only part of the story. 2. Work and productivity. The Soviet economy was centrally planned. Production targets were set by state committees, not by market demand. In theory, this eliminated unemployment and ensured stability. Every citizen had a job. In practice, it created inefficiencies. Factories often focused on meeting quotas rather than quality. If a nail factory was told to produce a certain weight of nails, it might produce fewer but heavier nails. If instructed to produce a certain number, it might produce many small, unusable ones. The system rewarded numbers, not necessarily usefulness. Workers were officially celebrated as heroes of labor, yet many workplaces struggled with outdated equipment, shortages of materials, and bureaucratic delays. The image of constant productivity did not always match the reality of daily frustration. 3. Housing and everyday living. One of the most defining aspects of Soviet daily life was housing. Urban apartments were often shared. Families lived in communal flats, known as kommunalkas, where multiple households shared a kitchen and bathroom. Privacy was limited. Later, during the 1950s and 60s, mass housing projects provided millions with small but private apartments. These standardized buildings improved living conditions significantly compared to earlier overcrowding. However, housing shortages remained common. Waiting lists could last years. Official messaging showed modern cities and content families. Reality was more modest. Compact rooms, thin walls, limited consumer choice. But for many citizens, stability mattered more than luxury. 4. Consumer goods and shortages. One of the most visible gaps between propaganda and reality involved consumer goods. The Soviet system prioritized heavy industry and military production over consumer products. As a result, everyday items could be difficult to obtain. Long queues became a normal part of life. People stood in line without always knowing what was being sold, because scarcity made opportunity unpredictable. This does not mean there was constant collapse or chaos. The state provided basic necessities: bread, milk, public transportation, education. But choice was limited. Western advertisements showed abundance and variety. Soviet stores often showed uniformity and repetition. The contrast became increasingly visible by the 1970s and 80s. 5. Information and expression. Propaganda was not only economic, it was informational. State media controlled newspapers, television, and publishing. Official narratives emphasized unity, strength, and external threats. Criticism of the system was not openly encouraged. This did not eliminate private disagreement, it simply moved it into private spaces. Kitchens became places of discussion. Literature circulated unofficially. Humor and satire developed as subtle forms of commentary. Public language and private language were sometimes different. That difference is essential in understanding Soviet society. 6. Education and opportunity. Education was one of the Soviet Union's strongest areas. Scientific training, mathematics, Engineering and technical education were highly developed. The country produced world-class scientists, athletes, and artists. The launch of Sputnik in 1957 symbolized technological achievement. It was a moment of genuine global impact. For many citizens, upward mobility through education was real. Rural families could see their children become engineers or doctors. This was not propaganda. It was measurable progress. Yet even, ideology shaped curriculum and intellectual boundaries. Academic achievement coexisted with ideological limitation. 7. Stability versus freedom. For many older citizens, especially those who lived through war and instability, the Soviet period represented security. Employment was guaranteed. Housing was affordable. Healthcare was accessible. Violent crime rates were relatively low. There was predictability, but predictability came with trade-offs. Travel abroad was restricted. Independent political organization was limited. Public dissent carried consequences. The system prioritized collective stability over individual autonomy. Whether that balance was acceptable depended largely on personal values and lived experience. 8. The late Soviet era. By the 1980s, structural problems became more visible. Economic stagnation, declining productivity, and growing public awareness of life outside the Soviet sphere created pressure. Television and cultural exchange exposed citizens to alternative lifestyles. The gap between official optimism and lived reality widened. Reforms attempted to increase transparency and restructuring. But once information flows open, expectations change. When the Soviet Union dissolved in 1991, reactions were mixed. For some, it meant freedom and opportunity. For others, it meant uncertainty and loss. 9. Beyond simple narratives. It is easy to simplify history into extremes, either total oppression or total success. The reality is more complex. Life in the USSR included both achievement and limitation, stability and restriction, pride and frustration. Propaganda did not invent everything, but it did amplify the positive and silence the negative. The lived experience of millions cannot be reduced to a slogan either supportive or critical. Understanding the Soviet Union requires acknowledging contradictions. Conclusion. History is rarely binary. The Soviet Union was neither a flawless utopia nor a single-dimensional dystopia. It was a system that achieved rapid industrial growth and educational expansion, while also struggling with inefficiency, shortages, and restricted expression. Propaganda presented the ideal. Daily life revealed the compromise, and in that space between message and reality, ordinary people built their lives, not as symbols, not as statistics, but as human beings navigating a structured system. Understanding that complexity is essential, not to judge the past, but to understand how large systems shape everyday life.